Hi everyone, and welcome to the very first podcast on the channel Simplysoccer. I'm Dave, the creator of Simplysoccer, and welcome to the first episode, like I just said. And I don't exactly know what I'm going to do with these episodes, whether I'm going to put them all on the channel or put them on some other medium after this. But this first one will definitely be available on the channel, and you should be seeing it only on the channel right now, unless I linked it to you in my email list. So what I'm going to do with these podcasts, let me just give you like a brief overview of my plans for the podcast. So the reason I started this podcast and I decided that it would be a good idea to create these is because, one, enough people requested it after I asked, and two, because a lot of the videos that I do end up going over 20 or 30 minutes. Now, you don't see them when they go over this, but I edit them out. And this is because, I usually have a lot of information to give you guys on certain topics, but I can never say all of it, or I can never actually include all of it, simply because I can't be releasing 20 to 30 minute videos every single week or 3 to 4 times a week. So I usually cut them. Sometimes I deliberately try and leave things out so that they're shorter. But with podcasts, the good thing is I can go way more in depth with these topics. So what I'm going to do is this week I'm going to choose what I'm talking about, but in the future you can decide. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is any questions you want answered in depth, or just want a simple answer for, put them in the comments of this video, and I will get to some of them in my next podcast. If I like one very much, I will base the entire podcast around it, and if there are some that are repeated over and over again, I will include those as well. So if you want a question answered in detail, this is the perfect opportunity for you to get one answered in detail by me by just putting it in the comments below here. And, you'll have an opportunity for me to go over it if I think it's a topic that definitely needs covering. Okay, guys? Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, this might be a weird introduction to Simplysoccer, but the whole point of this channel is to help you guys get better at this sport that I love and that many people around the world love. And it's also so that you can stand out. It's not just about becoming a slightly better player. It's about being able to be that player who is making things happen, who is standing out on the pitch, who you can see it's evident that they're putting in the work, they're putting, they're doing the right practices, and they have the right mentality to be playing very, very well. So this week, on the first very episode, we are going over how to be a complete soccer player. So I'll describe that in a second as we're going over it. Guys, also remember to like, comment, and subscribe, just to mention that early, because I'm about to get into this, and it's going to be a while before I'm able to ask that of you guys again. And remember, leave your questions down below. Now, what makes a complete player? So first off, we're going to go over complete player no matter what. We're not going to go over a specific position just because that would take too long. Obviously, certain positions require different attributes, but you'll be surprised to learn that most of the time, most players need at bare minimum the same attributes. Like, there are certain things that I think all players should need and be competent in. And if they're not competent in these areas, it's going to be very hard to succeed in any position that you play, maybe bar goalkeeper, which is a whole different dynamic. Or has whole different dynamics to it, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But let's go over this very quickly. Now, just in case you guys don't want to hear me ramble on about the whole thing, if you look in the description, I will put points of where I'm talking about certain things. So if I'm talking about a certain topic you're not really interested in, although I do recommend you listen to the whole thing, you can skip it and go to the one that you want to listen to. And guys, just so before I start this, remember, this is for really serious players, I would say, because this podcast, I'm going to guess, is going to be about 30 minutes long, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. So you have to be a very committed player to want to listen to this. But that's enough about that. Let's get into it, and let's go over what makes a complete player. So a complete player might be defined differently by everyone. But to me, there are certain attributes a player has to have to be considered a complete player. The whole motto of this channel, like the main saying I like to use on this channel, the motto, it's in my header on YouTube, it's on the Facebook page, it's on, I don't know if it's on Instagram, no idea, but it might be. And it's improve your game, stand out, on the pitch. So how do you stand out on the pitch? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you, but this is the whole thing about the channel. And this is what I want you guys to learn, and this is what I want you guys to be able to do, improve your game and stand out on the pitch. So here's the first thing I think you have to have. We're going to go over the physical attributes, the skills that you need to become a complete player who stands out on the pitch. So the first one is ball control. This is one that I go over quite often, and there's a reason for it. Even if only 1 out of 100 players listen to me when I say that ball control is the most important physical attribute, I believe, then we're going to have one player that's going to become very, very good. Ball control is really, to me, the skill that all other skills branch out from. If you have bad ball control, there is very little you're going to be able to do skill-wise or technical-wise in soccer. And let me try and explain that. First off, what ball control is essentially your ability to manipulate the ball to do what you want. If you have poor ball control, you can't make the ball do what you want. And if you have good ball control, you can to a certain level, depending on how good it is. That's a very simplified version of what ball control is, but I think it covers it pretty well. So if you are unable to control the ball in most circumstances, you're going to struggle to be able to shoot the ball well. You're going to struggle to, dribble the ball well, to pass the ball well, to essentially do anything with the ball at all. And, considering this is a game that, is predicated on who can do the most with the ball, it's going to hurt you quite a bit if your ball control is poor. So that's the first thing. You absolutely need good ball control. And if you look at any professional player, you'll notice that every single one has fantastic ball control. And you'll also notice that the best players in the world, the ones that are head and shoulders above the rest, all seem to have ball control that is better than the players below them. You look at players like Messi, Suarez, Neymar. I mean, I'll try and name non-Barcelona players. You look at players like them. You look at players like Aguero, Ozil. You look at players like Pogba. One thing all of these players have in common is that they all have above average for professionals ball control. They all have world-class ball control. You look at players in the past like Zinedine Zidane. You look at players like even Zlatan Ibrahimovic. These players have sensational ball control, and they will be able to bring the ball out of the air and control it in ways that will leave people astounded. And that all stems from having sensational ball control. So this is the area I honestly think that most players should concentrate on the most when it comes to physical things. There are many things you should concentrate on that are outside the physical, like mental things and all that, which I do go over. But when it comes to physical attributes, I think this is the most important. You improve your ball control. I'm not going to get into, how to improve these areas completely because I have so many videos on the channel going over how to improve these areas. But with ball control, essentially, the more touches you get on the ball, the better it gets. It improves what is called muscle memory, which is basically, you keep doing something over and over again. You get used to that movement. You get used to the way that feels. You get used to doing something. You get better at it. So that's why I always recommend juggling as a great way to improve your ball control. Kicking against a wall is a fantastic way to not only improve your ball control, but other areas of your game. But just make sure you're getting a ton of touches on the ball. I actually got a comment from someone the other day who said his son would do the thing that I recommended, which was dribble the ball around with him all the time, like walking everywhere, just dribbling it around, just having the ball at his feet like throughout the day. And he was telling me that it worked, like they had become so good from doing that. And it would have been not just that, but from doing that will increase your level so much. Why? Simple. You're getting a ton of touches, thousands of touches on the ball every day. You do that, that adds up very quickly to 100,000 touches in no time at all, to 1,000,000 touches in no time at all. Imagine how good you will be if you were getting millions of touches on the ball. How good do you think you would be? Pretty good. So try and get touches on the ball as often as you can. You should at least do it a little bit each day if you can't dribble the ball everywhere. But that is so important to becoming a complete player and a standout player. So just remember that ball control is so important. Second, physical attribute. This one could be kind of mental and physical because sometimes the mind quits before the body does, and it prevents you from doing certain things. Like if you're working out and your mind's like, you can't, you're telling yourself you can't get that last rep or you can't do that last sprint, when in fact your body totally could handle it. But you kind of psych yourself out. But we're going to put this in physical, and it's work rate. This really annoys me when I see players do this, and I think the reason it annoys me is because I used to do this, and I was, when I look back, I'm always frustrated that I didn't learn this later. But having a good work rate does so many things for you. It makes you a better player. It makes you more fit. The harder you work in matches, the better your fitness will be, which will allow you to work harder and harder in matches. And two, you don't understand how many more opportunities you'll have through working hard, how many more opportunities you will set up through just your work rate, and how much of a better player you'll become just through your work rate. I mean, you look at some of the best players in the world, you look at some of the most successful players in the world, and almost every single one of them works hard, not just only on the pitch, but outside of the pitch. I mean, you might say, well, what about, some people actually think that Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't work hard. And this always astounds me because he's well documented as being someone who works like 6 hours a day individually on his game or something ridiculous like that. I mean, this is next level stuff. Not most professionals don't even do that. And you look at players like Suarez, who if you watch him play, and I use him as an example all the time, he works as hard as he can from the first minute to the 90th to however many extra minutes there are. He harasses defenders. He never gives up on the ball. He'll get frustrated sometimes, but he never, ever quits. He works very hard. Jamie Vardy, who many of you may know as being the Premier League sensation this year. One of the reasons he has is because he has incredible work rate. I just did a video on him because I'm a huge admirer of his story and of how he has risen to the top. And one of the things about his game that makes him so good is he works so hard. And you'd think this would be like a necessary thing for most professional players, and they do work hard in comparison to a normal person. But when you're at the level of a professional, the next goal is work harder than your fellow professionals, right? And you would think every professional would work at that level, but they don't, which is why I really like Jamie Vardy and players like him. He works as hard as he can. You think he would have scored as many goals as he has if he didn't work as hard as he does in games? He probably wouldn't. A lot of the goals he has scored has been because he's worked so hard, always running and always looking for opportunities. Another example is Harry Kane. How come he's risen so quickly? There seems to be a trend among players who have been on the brink of obscurity and have come through as world-class stars or phenomenons. And it's that they've worked hard off the pitch and on the pitch. Now, this might be something that seems hard to develop if you were not used to working hard, but you can develop it. You just got to get into it and build some momentum and keep going. So the next thing to become a complete player is you have to work hard. There's no getting around it. You cannot you can't become a standout player without working hard. You might come to me saying, well, I know this guy who's lazy and he's the best player on our team. Yeah, well, guess what? If he continues being lazy or she continues being lazy, they won't be for long. And I've seen players like this who have been the most talented players on the pitch and because of it haven't worked hard and then have dropped off. And I used to be like this when I was a kid. I was, not to be, egotistical, but very talented, possibly one of the more talented on my team. But I let that be my driving force. So I didn't work hard. I would score the odd, very, amazing goal every now and then, but I wasn't consistent because I didn't put the effort in. And a lot of the time, my harder working teammates who weren't as talented would outperform me most of the time until I woke up and realized, look, you need to start working hard. So remember to work hard. It's very important and it will take you very, very far. Okay, so here's the third thing that I think, to be a standout player you need to have, and it's a branch off of ball control, and it's dribbling. Now, I don't care if you are a defender, a midfielder, a forward, a impact sub, it doesn't matter. If you can't dribble effectively, you can't play well. You can't stand out. Just like ball control, this is a necessary skill. And this is another one that you can develop through the dribbling everywhere that I mentioned. And by the way, guys, for some of these things that I'm saying, I will leave links to videos in the description, possibly the comments, to things you can watch to help these areas, and I will make sure I label them so you know which helps which. But here's another one in dribbling. Now, what I love about dribbling is you can improve your dribbling very, very quickly. So if you are someone who's not so great at dribbling right now, don't worry. You can get better at it, and that's what's great about it. But you do need to, again, work hard to do it. Another thing I like about dribbling is ball control and dribbling are intertwined to a certain degree. Dribbling to me is just an extension of ball control. There's some more components to it, and it's a little more complicated, but if we're going to very, simplify as much as we can, it's an extension of ball control. So as your ball control improves and as you improve your dribbling, the other area will also improve. But why this is really important is because anytime you're trying to move with the ball, you are technically dribbling. So say you get the ball and you try and move in a direction without passing it, you're now dribbling. And if you can't do that effectively, you can't move with the ball. And how ineffective would a player be if they can't move with the ball? So this is why it's very important. And again, there's a reason that the best players in the world are also some of the best dribblers in the world. There's a reason the Ballon d'Or, Ballon d'Or, there we go, is won usually by a skillful player who can dribble effectively and the best. I mean, Lionel Messi has won it he won it last year. Ronaldo won it the year before. And the thing about both of these players, besides, the amount of goals they score, they're some of the best dribblers in the world. They have some of the best ball control in the world. So there's those two areas peaking up again. I mean, you look at Messi, he's considered one of the best to ever live, if not in my opinion, the best to ever live, and will probably not be surpassed in my lifetime. I'd like to think he would be, because that would just be more entertainment for me and everyone else. But one of the main things about his game is his dribbling ability. He so easily can just dribble past three players. But one thing you probably didn't notice about his game is also how good his ball control is, but we won't get back into that now. So for dribbling, you need to be able to move effectively with the ball, because there are going to be situations where you need to dribble out of it. There are going to be situations where it's advantageous for you to dribble at a defender and beat them. There are going to be situations where you just need to dribble. Whether it's to get out of trouble or to set up something for your team. And you can definitely not be a standout player, let alone an even competent player, without having this ability. So how do you improve your dribbling? Well, like any area we go over today, the improvement comes with consistency. And again, the thing about dribbling that I love is it is an area you can improve quickly. It's not an area you can master quickly, but it is certainly an area you can improve and become very good at very quickly. Now, the good thing about dribbling as well is it's a more fun activity. If you're practicing things like dry runs, forward runs or things without the ball, those things are not as fun. Or even if you're improving your shooting against goal, dribbling is quicker because you always have the ball at your feet and you can get a lot of touches in a short amount of time. So to improve your dribbling, you need to be getting touches on the ball, again, just like with ball control, but more specifically touches on the ground with the inside, the outside, and the sole of your foot. Now, dribbling, especially when you're moving forward, should be done mainly with the outside of your foot. There will be situations where you need to touch it with the inside, but mainly with the outside of your foot, and you'll develop this as you go along. Again, I will be linking videos in the description so you can learn more about how to get better at these areas. So that is the third thing on what you need to become a standout player. Dribbling is one of my favorite things to do, and trust me, when you get good at dribbling, the game gets so much more fun. There are very few things, there are very few things in soccer more fun than dribbling at a player and beating them one-on-one, or dribbling at a player and doing a give and go with a teammate, or just dribbling with the player and dribbling with the ball and realizing that you have it under your spell and under your control. It's very satisfying and will take you far in this sport. The next, the thing that might top it, beating a player one-on-one is scoring a goal, obviously, but that goes without saying. So we got to move it along here because we're already 20 minutes through, so I'm going to kind of go quickly through these next ones. The next is passing. Now, this one is pretty self-explanatory, but I feel inclined to mention it because it's one of those things where you kind of look at it and you think, well, of course, passing, you need to be able to pass if you're a complete player. But there are many players who are even good who misplace very short and simple passes. So it's not an area of your game you need to be neglecting. You need to be specifically training on your passing sometimes. And again, one of the ways I think is really good to develop your passing technique is kicking against a wall. And just as something, just to kind of interject this in the middle of this podcast, guys, one of the best practices you can do for yourself every day is just kick against the wall for 10 to 20 minutes a day. You will be amazed at how this will improve your game. If you are practicing and concentrating on like technique and controlling the ball and you're dribbling while you're at the wall, you will improve. I can't really describe it to you. It's just something you need to try. You will improve in ways you can't even think. You will improve more than you ever did at team training. And unless you are trained by a professional team, more than you've really ever been improved by a coach, by kicking a ball against the wall every day. So passing, I'm not going to really go into much detail on how to get better at it. I just told you the main thing, but you need to be able to do that effectively to be a complete player, a standout player. I'm not saying you need to be able to hit a 70-yard ball onto, the toe of your winger from the other side of the pitch. That's a very specific thing, but you need to be able to pass short to, a little longer passes effectively and accurately. So that's all I have for physical. There are, of course, more things, like being two-footed is something I would recommend, things like that. Having, a good eye for goal is another one, being able to shoot effectively. But I think if you improve your ball control, your work rate, your dribbling and passing, and you get really good at these areas, the other things will work themselves out and you'll be able to practice those as well. But those are the main ones, I think, especially ball control and dribbling. So we're going to move on to these mental ones very quickly. And I have 3 for you. Again, these are not every single one, but these are the 3 I think are so important and you need to, start getting better at if you want to become a standout player. So the first one is decision-making. Decision-making is essentially, I think some people get confused on what this is. And decision-making is determined, by what situation you're in. So it's not going to be the same per situation. You need to be able to make a decision in a split second, which makes every situation different. This is something I especially think, creative players need to be able to do. The best playmakers in the world are the ones that have the best decision making. They're the ones who can disguise a pass or reverse a ball. They're the ones who you expect them to shoot, but instead they pass it to a player who ends up scoring. They're the ones who shoot when they could pass it, but shooting's the better option. Things like this. Now, some players overcomplicate things, and this usually is attributed to poor decision making. Like the amount of times I've seen certain players pass the ball when they should be shooting, or shooting when they should definitely be passing a ball, is many and many, many times. You need to get used to when is it better to do one thing and when is it better to do another. You should always be thinking, and you have to, you can't really think this in a game. You kind of have to just automatically feel the thought, if that makes sense, in a game, thinking, what is the best thing I could do for my team right now? And be able to make that decision in a split second. So sometimes players get confused. They think that passing the ball is the best thing for their team. Well, that's what's expected, but it's not necessarily the best decision. So, for example, if I have a defender isolated one-on-one and I have the option of taking him on and whipping it across or passing it back to my player, sometimes taking the man on is the better option if I can beat him. Like sometimes players think that shooting the ball or taking a player on one-on-one is the more selfish decision. It's not if it is giving your team an advantage. If I take the shot and it leads to a rebound, which leads to a goal, or I take it and score, that's better than simply turning around and playing the ball to my teammate. Now, this doesn't mean you should go out and just shoot the ball every single time and you should take a player on every single time. Again, this is decision making. So in some situations, it will call for you to do something else. So that's the first one, decision making and mental. If you can develop good decision making where you make the right decision most of the time, you will be a very, very good player. The second is soccer IQ. Now, this actually ties into decision making, although actually I should say decision making ties into your soccer IQ. And this is essentially your soccer brain. Can you see moves ahead of time on the pitch? One of the players I like to always mention when I mention soccer IQ is Zinedine Zidane. He was one of my favorites with this because he just seemed to know where everyone on the pitch was at all times. He seemed to know, even when he didn't even seem to look when a player was coming on his back. He seemed to know when to turn, when to pass, when to shoot, when to play a through ball, when to play a 1-2, when to create space, when to take someone on. He just seemed to know every single time. Developing your soccer IQ takes a lot of time. I recommend watching the best players in the world play. I mentioned this before. I think this will improve your soccer IQ greatly. But this is something, the players that have the soccer IQ, the highly developed soccer brains, are the ones who stand out on the pitch. You think of like Man City, and who do you think the standout creative player on that team is? Probably David Silva. Kevin De Bruyne was before he was injured. You look at players like maybe Juventus, you would say that Pirlo was before he left, and Pogba is now. You look at players at Real Madrid, you think who has the footballing brain? I would say Ronaldo definitely does, although he doesn't get credit for it because he's much maligned. But I would say, players like Toni Kroos, players like Luka Modric, a highly underrated player. You can keep going. You can take a look at like a Dele Alli in Tottenham, who has proven to have a very good soccer IQ. So this is another example of just, if this is something you can develop, it will help you stand out on the pitch. So let's go over to the last one here, and this is one that is so obvious, but yet so overlooked by players. It's one that I think players don't think they can actually develop, and they think you're either born with it or you're born without it, and that is confidence. Here's the thing about confidence. If you are confident, you can achieve anything in life. Now, if you're unconfident and you're hearing me say that, your immediate reaction is probably to say that's not true. That's just not something that's true. Well, the fact of the matter is, yes, it is. I mean, it may be hard to hear that, but if you are confident, there really isn't a cap on what you can achieve. I mean truly confident. I'm not talking about being egoistic. I'm not talking about having a big head. I'm not talking about condescension. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about this belief in your ability, knowing that you'll pull through, knowing that you'll play well, knowing that you are a good player. That belief, that unwavering belief in yourself, that's what I'm talking about. And if you have that, there's so much you can achieve. An example I really like, actually two examples I like for this, is one, Harry Kane, and two, Jamie Vardy. And there are many more examples, but these are two that have happened recently that have made headlines, so I like to use them. Harry Kane was a player who was about to be sold by Tottenham. And many of you might not notice, he was about to be sold by Tottenham. He was about to be, bought by a team in leagues below the Premier League. He was on loan to many different teams. He did okay at some, but not great. And then he got into the Spurs team. And guess what? He started scoring. He started gaining confidence. And now he's going to be probably the main striker for England at the Euros. And he's tied joint top scorer in the Premier League. And that was all because of a confidence shift. He always had the ability, but he had the confidence to then play his best game. He has so much belief in himself now that he's scoring goals for fun against whoever he wants. The other one is Jamie Vardy, and which is the even kind of better story for this. He's actually tied for top goal scorer with Harry Kane, funnily enough. But I really like this one because Jamie Vardy's confidence was developed and was unwavering even in the lower tiers of football. He was 25, I think, maybe a little younger, when he was in non-league football. 25, that's about when you're hitting the prime of your career. Most players who are playing in the conference at 25 probably don't have the confidence or, probably don't believe in themselves enough that they can make it higher than the conference. But Jamie Vardy must have had such confidence and said to himself, I know I'm a good player. I can go even higher if I work hard. If I keep working hard, I keep scoring goals, I can get to the top level. And now, again, he's about to possibly be a Premier League champion, and he should be going to the Euros. I don't know if he will. England's weird with things like that, but he should be in the England squad come the summer. So that's just two examples of confidence and how far it can take you. No one would have predicted that either Harry Kane or Jamie Vardy would be England internationals right now. Maybe Harry Kane would have been a bit easier to predict. But the point of the matter is, you can really go anywhere with confidence. If you can develop confidence, I think it is possibly, I know I went over ball control, I went over some other things, but I think confidence for every player is the most important thing you can develop, because with that comes everything. Players usually neglect the mental side of the game, in favor of going out and practicing their shooting, in favor of going out and practicing their dribbling, or in favor of going out and doing the fun things. And there's really nothing wrong with that. I get that, because I used to be like that. I used to want to just go out and shoot the ball on net. I wanted to go out and practice my skills. But I should have been working on my confidence as well. It is an area you can actually work on. And again, I will be linking videos to help you work on each and every one of these areas. So guys, honestly, if you are going to learn any one of these things first, confidence is the one. Because with confidence, everything else will stem from that point, because then you will work hard to get better at your dribbling and your ball control. You will learn how to develop your soccer IQ. You will have the confidence to go into matches knowing that you're a good player. And I know I did a video on this recently about how to be confident, and I will definitely link that video as well. Okay, guys? So again, the 3 mental ones I've decided to choose today are decision-making, soccer IQ, and confidence. Now, again, there are plenty others I could have gone over, but as you can tell, we're already about 30 minutes into this one. So, we're getting ready to wrap it up. Thank you for listening to the first podcast for Simply Soccer. Again, leave your comments down below, and I will answer your questions. I might just have Q&A podcasts. I might, take your question and make a whole podcast out of it. Who knows, guys? So if you have made it this far, what I want you to do is we're gonna do something in the comments so that I know you made it all the way to the end. Say like I made it, or hashtag I made it. Okay, and I will know you made it to the end. And if you did, I highly respect you, because I can tell you are someone who wants to improve yourself as a player, and to listen to 30 plus minutes of audio from me to learn more and to want to improve yourself is very impressive. And this is my personal message to you. I think if you continue the way you're going, you will become a fantastic player. So just keep doing what you're doing. Remember what I've said. Again, look at the description, because there will be a lot in there on how to work on these areas that I've gone over. Again, leave your comments down there and questions for me, because I will answer them. If you're new to Simply Soccer, be sure to subscribe, and also thank you for staying this long on the video. If you're new to Simply Soccer, that is fantastic. But definitely subscribe. We're going to be doing these podcasts every Wednesday or some other day if we can. But besides these podcasts, we release about 3 to 4 actual demonstration videos to help you improve. Okay, guys, so thank you for staying with me this long. Remember, give me your questions and anything else you want answered, and I will try to include them in the next video. Also, just a reminder, guys, get on my mailing list if you're not already. Just go to the website, fill in all the things. It takes like a minute or so, probably less, and you will be getting free stuff from me. You'll be getting things ahead of time. This podcast, actually, I think I'm going to release it to my email list before anyone else. So, you definitely want to get in on it. And also follow me on Instagram, because when we hit 100 followers, I will be giving away some prizes, including a Messi and Ronaldo poster. And these will, of course, be free gifts if you win. But you have to be following me to be entered, and we have to hit 100 followers to actually do the giveaway. Okay, I think we've gone on long enough. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and I'll see you, or I won't see you, but I will talk to you on the next podcast episode.